Okay, let's draw. The first thing that we can do when we start to draw is to warm up. And so you can move your hand around, stretch out, and do all those things, but it's better to just kind of let your hand do what it wants to do. I know a really easy two-step process to become an artist. You ready for this? It's one, find the gestures you want to make. You can express that through your handwriting, the way you move your hand, the way you find sharp teeth, loop-de-loops, etc. Okay, that's step one. Find the gestures that you want to make. You ready for step two? This is the last step. You'll never believe what it is. Step two, how to be an artist. Find the gestures you want to make, and then step two is make them. That's it. The rest is up to you. Just kidding. I'll teach you a few things. Okay, so let's talk about, let's just warm up. Feel a little chaos. Get the muscles in your arm just awake. And let's try to get some circles going. We want to get them consistent, round, even. There's a quality of doodling here. Where I'm trying to move fast, square the circle. Not so good at that. Maybe I need to get my circles a little bigger. If your circles are always coming out like this, if you're struggling to make a circle that's genuinely round and you look at it and you know it's not round, use your shoulder instead of your wrist, right? I can make one with my wrist because I practiced for 35 years. And I need another 35 years of practice. The thing about drawing, it's like going to the gym. If you don't do it every day, it gets stale. And I haven't been doing it a ton every day, to be honest with you. Well, a good amount. Not too much. I used to draw every day for hours and hours. I'm a little bit better than I am now. But there's some things I can do now that I couldn't do then. The thing I want to teach you about drawing is that you have to focus on the destination, on the journey, and not the destination. Excuse me. Okay, so I've got my ovals. I'm modulating my ovals. For some reason, I'm really interested in these tube shapes that I can articulate. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I think, okay, what's another good warm-up? How about straight lines? That's a very frequent thing that people say when I ask them about, when we talk about drawing. They say, oh, I can't even draw a straight line. It's like a trope. Well, I mean these are straight enough. Don't let the perfect get in the way of the good enough, especially with your storyboarding. Okay, so I've got... Remember I talked about using your shoulder? Lock your wrist and your elbow and feel the circle in your shoulder. Get it as round as you can. Maybe you need a bigger circle. Oh, there you go. Nice and round. Little off base. Okay. So anyway, your shoulders are circles, but I bet your wrist can get nice straight lines if you practice. Voila, you're warmed up. Take a few minutes, do some doodling, get lost in the process, right? Really, really don't think about it. Just let your hand explore. Find the gestures that you want to make, and then make them. Pause the video now and resume in a few moments. Okay, so let's talk about the thing that we really have to talk about, which is how to draw people. Any kind of people doing any kind of thing. Well, I'm sure that there are some things that we can't possibly imagine and visualize. Thankfully, Google image search is always your friend. Always, 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 always. No worries about that Google image search. So let's start with the basics of a cartoon character. A figure, a symbol for an actor, we've actually already done that. If you've done your circles and squares, do a few more of those. Circles, circles, circles. Get them as even and consistent as I can get them. And then just as I was trying to make my circles as round as possible and as even as possible, I'll try to get my squares the same way. If I've done this, then I've already achieved the basic start of a little cartoon character. Got the head, and I've got the body. There are my two characters. Can you tell them apart? Not yet, but you will. How about now? How about now? Rosie and Ben. Rosie's got this red curly hair, and if I so choose, I can color code her further. And I know that you can do that, right? I know that you can do it poorly. I will accept you doing it poorly. Okay, no problem. If you stopped drawing when you were 12, I'll meet you there. If you stopped drawing when you were 6, I'll meet you there. If you never stopped, I'll meet you there, right? Everyone's coming here at a completely different level of ability and experience, and that's the beauty of the class. Teach each other, support each other. Okay, so these are the most basic cartoon characters that you can get. And I say that because I do not accept stickmen. I can't stand stickmen. Useless. Can't do anything. Arms are out of proportion. Doesn't have knees. Like, what's going on here? He's no good. I can't tell if he's, wearing a ballerina tutu or standing in front of the sidewalk. But as soon as the character gains a little bit of mass, I'm not confused about the sidewalk anymore. Okay? So there's got to be a happy medium between these that sort of moves this forward. So let's talk about that. There you go. You can do that. No problem. Do you have to go a little bit bigger for clarity? I sometimes do. So let's see if I don't run out of room for the feet here. Head's a little too big. That's okay. Voila. So the idea is that we take this stick person and we give them mass. Think about them as tube people, not stick people, tube people. These tubes for the legs, and then halfway down is the knee, which you don't have to draw, but it's useful in case you want to bend it to know where the bend is going to be, right? That's why we get used to doing that. It's useful to know where the wrist and hand is. I have not drawn in a while, so there's certain things that I'm just embarrassed at how much my skills have atrophied in the last few weeks. Okay, so that is tube person. Tube person's your friend, and you can get them doing any number of things. If you practice, you can get those cartoon people acting just a little bit. What else I got? This guy's gonna be running so fast his feet don't touch the ground. Voila. So I know that you can figure out some doodling and some jamming on this. Pause now, to practice that. Here's my tip. I want you to find a pose that you know that you can't draw or you think might be challenging, and then I want you to put your own body in that action type pose so that you can have you'll make a connection between your brain and your body of how to draw it if you understand how the pose actually works. If you can see and feel your arm moving in a certain direction, it might make your life a lot easier when you're trying to draw these stick people. So you might notice that my drawing is really sloppy. It's not super light, but you can still definitely consider this sketching. Sketching is the goal. If you're adept at sketching, you're going to do really well at this class. If you don't know what sketching is, I'm going to learn you. If you know what sketching is and you don't think you can do it, I will teach you how to do that too. Okay? So take a few moments and try to pose and move your stick figure. Can you draw someone making a slam dunk? Can you draw someone doing a triple axel? Can you draw somebody doing, stale fish kickflip, yada yada? You tell me. And if you need to Google it, add the word cartoon to your search terms. That will always make your life a lot easier. Okay, let's move on to the face. I think I need a new piece of paper. Okay, the face, if you're following along in the packet on figure E, we're on figure E, excuse me. So the head, is made up of a couple of different shapes, but it's basically an egg, right? So we drew circles. Now we need to stretch it out. The point of drawing the circle is that you're getting it super round so that when you stretch out the egg shape, it's in comparison to the fact that you know what a round circle looks like, if that makes sense. What I'm doing with these two lines is called a T-bar or something like that. And it basically helps you define where the face is pointing, not necessarily where the eyes are going, but where the face is pointing, so you can do things like place the hair and the other facial features with a little bit of accuracy and maybe a little bit of perspective even. Okay, so you can apply that T-square even if the head is in profile. It will help you understand where things go. And if you're not impressed with my drawing, I apologize. If you are impressed with my drawing, you should understand that I practiced for 30 years to do it this fast. But the emphasis on doing it quickly, the faster your hand moves, the faster you're thinking about it. Drawing really does take a lot of thought. You can't just, if you go into it thoughtlessly, you're not going to get results. If it's results you're after, I want you to get results. You can get minimal results. You don't have to get you don't have to be a master. I'm not a master. I'm going to keep practicing for the rest of my life, and I will continue to improve, maybe a little, although I do have the sense that I was a much better artist when I was younger and had more energy and patience for the thing. But there's a lot of things about storytelling that I have learned to harness and understand a lot better because I've had the experience of living. Right, so that's a huge part of your development as an artist. And I mentioned earlier the journey being more important in a lot of ways than the destination. I think that's a big part of it. You have to have fun doing this. You have to find your own interests. You have to tie it to your own interests. Not that I don't care what they are. I want to know what your interests are. I want you to know what your interests are. Okay. So let's see. The second one here, you can make these weird shapes in any sort of configuration that you want. This nervous fellow is his emotion is being aided by these symbolic beads of sweat. Right? That's a very useful thing. If you're a manga reader, you've seen all kinds of symbolic emotions that are culturally specific to Japan, but have interestingly spread across the world through manga and anime. That's a story for another time. Eventually what you'll find is that you can really make any lumpy shape that you add eyes, nose, and a mouth to into a character. And if you can give them a couple of different distinguishing features, then even if you've got a similar shape of a head and a similar sort of nose and face design, you can very easily get unique characters. What I'm doing here is another example of color coding. We did Ben and Rosie in blue and red earlier. When I want you to color code your characters, I want it to be with a single pop of color. So let's revisit Ben and Rosie, our tube characters. They don't need to be anatomically or proportionally sound. They need to symbolize people that could be characters and actors in the storyboards that we're going to draw. Or if you're already dedicated to a drawing practice, yeah, they need to be as realistic as possible until it drives you mad. But that's only if you care about making art. Yeah? If you can at least see the value in this skill as a story, as a filmmaking, like a tool in your skill set, I think you'll be in good shape. So here's Ben and Rosie. Very simple, kind of good, ill-proportioned characters. I think he looked like this, and she had the flavor of her hair was a fluffy cloud. And I just need a single pop of color. Anywhere will do. Here's a storyboard for us. Oh, in this panel, this poorly drawn, already a poorly drawn panel, I'm going to have Rosie framed in the background. She's framed in the crook of Ben's elbow. As he stands in the foreground. And because he's closer to the camera, and I also want to indicate that he's in focus, I will treat him with a little bit of ink and let her sort of sit at a lighter value in the background. A little bit of value never hurt anybody. So that's another way that this can work. Here is another way that it can work. Where did I put my yellow Post-its? Okay. This is the world's worst drawing, but that's okay. If it's truly wretched, you can always just tell me what you're drawing, and then amazingly, people's imaginations will do the rest. So let me know what you, just shout it out what you think this is. Okay, it's Ben. He's getting a text from Rosie. Yeah, terrific. Okay, what's the next thing that I want to tell you about? Ooh, arrows. Characters move with arrows. So this is going to be Ben. He's running fast. He's running so fast that his spiky hair, which sort of usually sits pointed forward, will be sort of thrown back in the wind. And I can put some speed lines on him. But the reason for this season is that when Ben moves swiftly, you can indicate that not only with your color-coded drawing, but with an arrow of equal swiftness, you see? So the kinetic quality of the subject is linked to the design of the arrow. Let's do another example of that with our friend here, a little off balance. So instead of giving the, everything's going to be shaky, right? So instead of the nice wide, confident stride, I might draw this character, you know, looking a little, you know, stumbly or whatever. Arrows are tough. You got to do the triangle nice and crisp and even. But then the tail can be chaotic. To show that maybe she's off balance, or maybe she's stumbling, or she's had a few beers. Voila. Right? So that is how we can use the arrows. Let's return very quickly to figure I, which is noses, right? So I've got head, 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 head. I want to have as many different noses as I can possibly dream up, so that my characters can be as distinct as possible. And there's a couple of things, see if I can remember them all, that you can do to make these characters as distinct as possible. The first one is the shape of their head. The second one is the shape of their hair. This guy's bald. This one. Voila. So it's the first one is the shape of the head, then the shape of the hair, then the color that you use, and then if we go to figure K, we can see the different proportions. This is where we can tell if someone has this like classically heroic bodybuilding physique, or if they're kind of old and feeble, or if they're a little baby. Just a young person, you know, etc., etc. It keeps the stick figure's wearing a dress, right? So it keeps going and going. You want to visually distinguish. That says distinguish. You want to visually distinguish your characters as much as possible with head, hair, what's the other one? Proportion, color, accessories, blah, 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 blah. You know, and any number of things, right? I think that's all I have to say about cartoon characters. I truly hope that you'll take a moment, or that my flesh and blood counterpart will pause the video here and there for you to do some studies based on these very simple ideas. Perhaps you can come up with ways that you would apply pops of color to pre-designed characters in scenarios like this. Oh, I forgot one. Oh, I totally forgot one. It goes so well with the cell phone. It's the opposite of the extreme close-up on the cell phone. It's a super wide shot where the character sits and thinks about their life, right? Because why on earth would I ever be bothered to draw any anatomical detail on this when it's intended to be so wide that the character is but a speck? Yeah. So if you can think not just at a sort of medium close-up type range of distances, the variety that you can provide with shots that don't necessarily focus on people's faces, I think the better off you're going to be. And with that, my friends, that is how to draw people. We will get into the anatomy books at a certain at a certain point in the semester. But this is, for my money, all you really need to know.